Welcome, everyone. We are going to discuss Parshas VaAyra. I want to discuss some of the things we've talked about in the past, but we're going to add a few points to it. So some of the things we'll repeat, those who haven't heard, and add a few additional aspects. So this week's Parsha, we have Hashem sending Moshe to Paro. And this is the beginning of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the coming out of Egypt in many senses. Now, the coming out of Egypt is not a incident that is supposed to happen because we were stuck, we didn't know how to get out. The coming out of Egypt is a fundamental revelation in the world. As the Ramban Nachmani says, it was to show the world certain things, that there is a God who created the world. He can do it every once, and he's involved in the world, right? Because we have different problems with people's minds where some people say, oh, there is no creator, the world's always been there, or there's a creator, but there are other forces, or there's a creator and he's very lofty, he doesn't involve in the world. So the coming out of Egypt was, so to speak, Hashem, God's calling card, revealing himself, and that is the basis of so much of things in the Torah, because it's the first time that Hashem has revealed himself to a nation and to the world in this way, that we know these truths to be apparent from our imperial experience of them. So this is it. This is like, this is the moment. So Hashem is sending Moshe to tell Paro, and we know how it's all going to play out with Paro. But the fascinating thing is that when Hashem sends Moshe to Paro, he tells him to show him a sign that this is Hashem, who is the creator of the world, master of all, and runs the world. Now, Paro's, I don't know who Hashem is. He knows Elohim, because he knows Elohim means the master of the powers. He knows powers. So, okay, so you have your power, I have my power. But Paro doesn't know this idea of Hashem. The Yud Ke Vav Ke, he is, was, is, will be, and makes all be, makes all existence. He doesn't know that. He says, I know, Elohim, I know powers. I have my games, I have my things. So Hashem sends a sign to show, sends Moshe with a sign. And what's the sign? He throws the staff down, Aaron throws the staff down, and what happens is it turns into a snake. Now it says in the pasuk that Paro went and he called his mechashefim, he called his witchcraft people, told them to do the same thing, and they did it. Now the Medrash continues. He says to his wife, "Hey, honey, do it also," and she did it too. And the Medrash says he called out the little kids from school, and he said, "Okay, kids, show your trick." And they threw the staff down, and their staff turned into a snake. And Paro said, Moshe, you're trying to bring witchcraft into the place of witchcraft? What are you talking about? We are the master of witchcraft. You're doing another trick. Okay, it's true. It turned back into a staff, and then it ate their staff when it was back into a staff. So it was something different. It looked like, well, maybe there's not some just witchcraft. It's more than that. But still, it begs the question, why, if the purpose was to show Hashem runs the world, he controls the world, there is no other power, why pick a sign that they could do? Pick something they can't do, and they'll be, oh, wow, we give up. That's not what happens. Why? Furthermore, it's like, then even the first two plagues. They do dam, Moshe does dam, and they do dam. Now, okay, there's a difference you could see, because it says in the text that the dam, when Moshe did dam, the fish in the sea, they died. Okay, so it wasn't just witchcraft that made the water look like a red, and a sleight of the hand that somehow they made this witchcraft, the water looked red like blood. No, it was biologically blood. So they saw a little difference, but okay, so maybe Moshe is a better magician than us, maybe. And the next plague comes along and it's Svardeya, it's frogs. Different Shitas learn what these animals are, called frogs. So And what happens is, so they come out, and the Medrash says they came out in spectacular ways. And according when you hit it, according to Rekiva, you hit the frog, it multiplied, or it called the other ones, according to the other sheet, and they all came. So, okay, so there's miraculous things about it that look beyond witchcraft. And then especially it says that the frogs will die, but they will stay in the water. So if these frogs were created through witchcraft, through this other sorcery, they couldn't then continue to reside in the water because the water is a mikvah and it would have nullified the witchcraft. So they could have looked and maybe said, oh, how did he do that? That's a great trick. But still, it begs the question, why do something that's in their realm at all? And it's only in the third makkah, which is the makkah of kinim, which is too small, as the sages tell us that witchcraft can only work on something that can transmit impurity. So if someone touches a tiny bone, it has to be a certain size, called a seorah, a barley corn, and that's big enough, and that will transfer the impurity. And they were doing it through their witchcraft, their occult, their impurity. So when the third plague comes along and it's kinim, it's lice, it's too small, they say, oh, it's bilakim, it's the finger of Hashem. Because like that we can't do that. We work through our impurities, and this doesn't transmit impurity. It's something so tiny. Okay, so great. So now they sort of got it. But again, it begs the question, why the first sign of the staff turning to a snake, and then the first two plagues are things that they could do. Yes, they could figure out it's a little different, but why? If the whole point is to show Hashem Ulakim, Hashem runs the world completely, and there's no other power, then do things they can't do. Now, you may be able to answer the first two plagues. You could say, listen, there is an order to the plagues as the Medrash brings down, that first you go and you attack the water, and then you make sounds, and that's the croaking sounds of the frogs. So there could be you could answer by saying the plagues themselves were a process that had to go. We've talked about it before, and we'll talk about other classes. The 10 plagues line up with the 10 statements of creation. And we'll talk about that at some other point. But what happened is, maybe you'll say they each had their own important value. It's maybe a little hard to understand why it couldn't be a different one that they couldn't do. But certainly the staff, it's like you're sending Moshe in, and to show Hashem Elokim, and he pulls out a deck of cards and says, pick a card, any card. How can it be? Why go and do something that they could do something they cannot do at all? We've been talking about this, and I just want to flesh it out, add some pieces here. The world as we experience it is called teva, nature. Now, when I see something, a process happening, I can say, this is teva, this is the way the world works. Okay. But teva has a problem. It has a problem. Teva, nature is able to go and to disconnect you from what's really going on. Let's explain. What's really the difference between something that's natural, that you're used to, no problem, and something that you would call a miracle? Oh, it would shake you up. You'd say, wow, God's running the world. What's going on here? Well, what's the difference? Let's talk about something that everyone knows is a miracle. And Dessel explains this beautiful idea. Dessel says, if we take, for example, the splitting of the Red Sea. Splitting the Red Sea, everyone agrees it's a tremendous miracle. So what happens? So when the Red Sea splits one time in history, as it did, everyone agrees, miracle. Jews were on the edge, being chased, the Red Sea split, and people walk through. Miracle. Now, what would happen if the Red Sea split every 70 years? Would you call that a miracle? No. That's called a phenomenon. That's what it is, right? That's what you do. You would have, It'd be televised. You'd have CNN there, and they're televised. People have their lounge chairs by the Red Sea with their binoculars. Oh, here it's going to split every 70 years. It's Halley's Comet. It's the Red Sea splitting. Literally, you'd have a different name for it. You would call it now a phenomenon. If the Red Sea split every single day, would it be a phenomenon? No, it would be nature. The sages tell us that not only when the Red Sea split, all waters in the world split. So what would happen if every single day at 12 o'clock, 12 afternoon, high noon, all waters split? Do you know how fast you would get used to that? That's just the way the world is, right? You go to the pool, and the lifeguard would blow the whistle, 11:55. All right, everyone out of the pool. Water's about to split. And you wouldn't think twice. That now would be called nature, teva. So what's the essential difference between what's called a miracle and what's called nature? The difference is frequency. How often does it happen? Maze happens once, and you call it a maze, a miracle, and teva happens consistently, and you call that nature. So really, the only difference is the frequency. But both situations are only what Hashem wants, how he wants the world to work. He wants nature, teva, to be the constant will that Hashem wants the world should work under these parameters. That's called teva. Why does it work that way? Why, when you drop a rock, it grows to the ground? Why is gravity? Because Hashem created that system. He wanted gravity, and therefore he created the law of gravity. So it's the ratzon of Hashem. It's Hashem's will that it should be this way on a consistent basis. But really, if Hashem wants the Red Sea split once in history, it's the same thing. This is the will of Hashem. It should happen once in history, and this is the will of Hashem. It should happen this format every single day. But teva is the word litboa, which means to drown, because you literally become submerged and assume that this is just the way things work. That's what it is. You drown in nature because you don't see Hashem. But people cannot see God anymore. They can say, yeah, all right, this is it. People always say, Mother Nature. Wow, this is beautiful. It's Mother Nature. My mother's name is not Nature, and I doubt yours is either. So why are they calling it Mother Nature? Who's Mother Nature? So people drown in the idea of something happening consistently. They don't see that it is from Hashem. And that's why the name Elohim means, the sages tell us it means master of all power. And if you take the gematria of Elohim, it's 86, which is the same gematria as Hateva, all of nature. Why is that? Because Elohim is the master of all the powers. So when you look at nature, you could say, oh, I'm drowning in this nature. Or you could say, no, this is the source. This is Elohim is doing this. And that's why teva is also the word matbeya. Matbeya is a coin or a system. And if you read nature properly, you see it's God's stamp, it's God's system, it's God's coin. This is the way he wanted it to work. Miracles happen, on an infrequent basis, and nature happens consistently. But why? What's the difference? Like if a person would go, for example, it was like, a guy goes and he dies and he's buried in the ground and then he comes out to life. It's amazing, a tremendous miracle. Yeah, it is. But you put a seed into the ground, it actually decays before it sprouts. Most seeds, this is the way they work. They decay, they die, and then they come out. And I don't see most people looking at a tree and saying, I can't believe it's a miracle. Because that's what you're used to. It happens on a consistent basis. But you got to look at nature and say, Elohim. It is the source of all powers. That's why I named Elohim. You flip the letters around and spells me, Ele. Who made this? Where is this from? What's the source of this that I'm seeing? That's the difference between nature and miracles. I think an amazing thing. We say it in davening every day. It says, God renews creation every moment. Even nature, the deeper understanding of nature, it's not consistent. In quantum physics, they see, when they look at subatomic particles, they see them popping in and out of existence. What does that mean? That's exactly what the sages tell us. We say in davening, Hashem is mechadesh, he renews the whole yom time in vibrations, and every moment and every day he renews creation. So it's really happening on a subatomic level, and it's really happening in existence. Is this thing is popping in and out of existence? So you see the table, you see the chair, and you experience them as steady. This is always what it is. This is the way things always work. This is what it. Nothing has changed. And really, you're just not seeing it's going in and out, in and out, in and out. Particles are popping in and out of existence because it's being renewed. This is Hashem's ratzon. It's His will that should happen on a steady basis. I see actually my battery is starting to get low on my computer, so I'm going to have to make this a little bit shorter. So therefore, that is what Paro, why the miracles happened in this way. Why the first plagues and were things that he could do, and why the staff that was thrown down turned into a snake that he could do. Because if you would have come to Paro and shown him the supernatural miracles that were outside of his world, they would say, okay, I have my little area. This is what I do. And Hashem does other things, but I have my area I still control. My nature, my witchcraft is my domain. He could do things beyond me. But I can do what I can do. The answer is that at the end, when Paro sees the things that boggle his mind, they all see this is impossible, it can't be done. They understand retroactively that even the things they think they could do, even the areas of our own power, are the dimensions and the structures that Hashem wants it to be that way. It's like we have this, people have an unfortunate, and this is from, going back to Galileo and the problems with dogmatic systems not looking at science. So what happens is that people in their minds, they kind of think, okay, there's my science and there's religion, some kind of fairy tale of some sort. That's the, and therefore, if I could figure out how to do this, I could control the world. And if I could put a man on the moon, I have my own areas, my power zone. That's what Paro believed. He had his power zone. That's what it was. Hashem says, no, you don't. Yes, I want you to work within the world that I create. But once you think it's yours, you're not living in reality anymore. And that really was the lesson of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And this is a very, very deep point I want to add to what we talked about before. Moshe asks Hashem, what name should I tell him is your name? And the names of Hashem is a very deep topic, very, very, very obvious, the deepest. But what the names represent is how God manifests in the world. We don't understand Hashem. Says the Zohar, no one can understand Hashem in any way. You think you can, you got a problem. That's what's happening. You can understand how Hashem manifests to relate to us. And each name is a different way he relates to us. And the parsha starts out, Hashem says, I related to the forefathers, Bekel Shakai. That name is the name, it's called Meshadet Esamaracha. He controls the world. So Avram can give birth, Hashem makes him give birth. And he controls the system. The revelation of Hashem's name, Havaya, the shame of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the name that we have in this world that is called the name that we can relate to in some sense, is existence. It's was, is, will be, and makes all existence be. It's not that you have a separate existence. Yeah, God has his ideas. I have my ideas. And and Paro thinks he's going to fight. No, it's all wrong. The existence that we live in is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. He is the place of the world, and the world is not his place. That is the deeper understanding of what we're coming out of Mitzrayim now. what we're seeing is that the miracles are not a show. It's not oh, there's a magic show. It's a revelation that there is no other power than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no other power than God. And when he gives us the world that we could function, we're functioning within the parameters and the existence that he's giving us. And when we have that and we realize that, hopefully we get the humility which Paro significantly lacked, obviously, because he was fighting against God. But you also realize that the incredible chesed, kindness, Hashem created us out of nothing. Had no existence. And now, from nothing, he gives me the ability to have conception in some way to the eternal. Wow, that's unbelievable. So the ability to get the humility to realize we were nothing, and then the godless, the greatness that Hashem gives us, that we can now, from nothing, have a ladder to understand the deepest things that are within the parameters of what he gave us as existence. That is the joy of understanding the Torah, and that is the calling card of the coming out of Mitzrayim. All the best.